God. Wow, we get into, I woke up the other day and I was thinking, geez, one big item that it doesn't matter whether you live in a house or you live in a condominium, or it doesn't even matter whether or not it happens when you're sitting at work. Say, for instance, you're sitting at work and you're on your PC and you're doing all your computer work and, updates and whatever you need to do. And next thing you know, you feel something hitting your foot and you're like, what the heck is that? You look down and it's a mouse. And so a female, yeah, what do? We probably scream. It's that female thing. Men, well, they, move into action, go and try to find out where the mouse has taken off to, and everybody starts searching the whole floor to see where it's gone. And of course, the question is, how on earth did it get onto the 15th floor of a commercial building in downtown Toronto? So that's an interesting story and a half. And the person that could have answers to pest control is Joe Bruno, because Joe Bruno is the owner of a company called Snap, SNAP Pest Control. And today I'd like to welcome Joe to the show.
Oh, hi, Linda. How are you?
Very well. It's great when we were chatting on the phone, even now, actually, about different things that happen out there with pests. There's just so many different varieties of pests, I guess, that you have to look after. What would be, I know we talked a bit about crazy stories that you've had.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a variety of different pests out there. We have insect pests that are crawling around, and we have wildlife pests that could be in your attic or in your basement, creating sounds in walls or ceilings. It's just pigeons on a roof. There's all kinds of pests, and this is the time of the year to really focus on pests because now they're starting to move around. Now they're more likely going to break into your attic and have babies. We're talking about raccoons, and birds getting into your dryer vents or stove vents and things like this. This would be the time when all hell breaks loose the next couple of months, especially after the cold winter that we've just had, and it's kind of kept them a little isolated for the most part. So they've got a little bit of catching up to do. So as homeowners, you want to definitely be looking at your property on a daily basis to look for things like shingles that be down at the side of the house or some insulation now that all of a sudden you're seeing in your backyard. Things like that would be on your radar as a homeowner at this time of the year.
So are they kind of like hibernating over the winter? Is that, or they've already, I guess they've got enough food that carries them through the very heavy-duty months?
Yes, I mean, typically over the past couple of winters, they didn't really hibernate much. They were able to get outside and forage. But this year, they were basically stationary. So now they definitely more active than usual, given the kind of winter that we had. So, yes, they can hibernate. They do store fat in their bodies to get them through the colder months. That's a fact, yes.
So you were talking about how I asked you what size of raccoon that you've actually captured or that you found in a property, and you were giving me a story about a raccoon in an attic. Yeah. You have to tell the listeners because that was really something else. I would never think that anybody would actually do that.
Well, it was a case in Toronto where a homeowner had put a new roof on their house. I guess they reshingled it, and not knowing that there was an actual raccoon in the attic that was kind of in a corner hunkered down. The trades guys didn't really see it. So they basically put this roof and locked it in. So now, I mean, there was really no way for the raccoon to get out.
Wow, that's crazy. And so if I had to take a guess, are we talking about the size of a small dog, like 10 pounds, 15 pounds, or how big was this raccoon?
I would say maybe like a medium-sized golden retriever.
Oh, my God.
Size, yeah.
Yeah, wow, so. And it was up there. So how did they know? I guess they must have been hearing a bunch of noise up there if it's that big. It's wandering around.
Yes, they definitely heard the heavy steps of it walking around up there, and we had to install a trap. It was hungry, so, I mean, within a couple of hours, it was already in. It wanted to be trapped. It was a question of lowering it down through the closet opening. Two guys to lower it down was so heavy. and awkward.
Oh my
But
God.
I think it was happy to be trapped and out of there.
Oh, for sure. Especially, I mean, up in an attic, there's nothing there. There's no food. I mean, the insulation. Where are they going to go? Or it was a male or female? I
It
guess
was a male.
It was a male.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you do then? I guess you call animal control and they come and pick it up, or do you just go in the woods and let it free, or what? What do you do with this live raccoon now that you've got?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we found a wooded area, conservation area, and I just released it into the wild. And basically 1 kilometer away from the house is all that we're allowed to do.
Right. So it can, well, I guess it'll go back to its natural habitat of wherever it lives, and it'll understand kind of, if you ever go back to that neighborhood, you might find a raccoon standing beside you and saying thank you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They do live in our world.
Well, yeah, sometimes I wonder because, the domestication. They had an article, there was an article out there last year, and they were talking about over in the Danforth and how it's actually on YouTube. There's a raccoon to get across the street rather than walking on the concrete across the street. He actually walks along the wires.
Wow.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, and it's got
that.
yeah, you got to check it out. It's got a lot of hits to it. It's complete, and somebody taped this raccoon doing that. It wasn't a big one; it's a small, and certainly not the size that you were encountering. But they say that they're very, very smart creatures.
Wow. Oh yeah.
Very intelligent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, isn't that? Well, I guess he figured, why bother getting out of the attic? I'm nice and comfortable, but he doesn't know. He didn't know that he was going to get closed in.
Exactly. Is what just happened here.
Well, I had a crazy situation a number of years ago, because you talk about renovations. And a number of years ago, we decided to renovate the basement. Put in a bar, and of course, had to tap into the main sewer in order to be able to, for the lines, like for the sink in the bar, for the water to drain out. And I guess the workman, when he did it, he must have cracked the P-trap that's inside your concrete floor. Which would have been put in there years ago, when the house was built. So we didn't know anything about that, of course. We didn't know that there was a trap. So what happened was, one day I had gone down to my basement, and I had a party. We had a big social gathering the night before, and I was coming up the steps. All of a sudden, I'm face to face, can you imagine, with a rat. A rat.
Yes.
A rat. Oh my God, I jumped like 3 steps over this rat to get up. I'm slamming the door closed, and I'm telling my husband there's a rat in the basement. He thinks I'm completely out of my mind. So anyway, sure enough, we, with my brother-in-law, we go down there. We found, it was a little baby rat. It wasn't a big one, but for me, rats are rats. So we got rid of the rat. Anyway, the next day I went to work, and I was telling a plumber at the company I was working at. And he said to me, well, Linda, in order for you to get a rat in there, you obviously have an opening to the sewer lines.
Yes.
So we went back to my home at noon hour, and sure enough, there was no water in that P-trap, which immediately can put gases into the house. It can allow the rats to come in, and oh my God. And, the gentleman that contracted wasn't done yet, so he didn't put a cover back on it. So it was literally exposed.
Yes.
So there you go. Something
There you
as
go.
innocent, something as innocent as having a crack in your P-trap of your floor could bring in who knows what. Never mind the toxic gases.
True, too. In fact, they can actually swim through the P-trap.
They can.
Even with liquid there, yes. I've seen it happen many, many times.
So really the key then is to have that cover on.
I would, in a basement, yes. I would definitely keep my lid down, especially in some of the older Toronto neighborhoods where a lot of times tree roots will crack a pipe just through the expansion of the roots themselves, and rats that are burrowing under the soil, if they find it, they can crawl through the pipe, swim through the trap, and actually end up in your toilet.
Really?
Yes,
So they can
yes.
really compress their bodies quite a bit. I've read that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that would be
Absolutely.
any kind of rodent family. So that would be your mice and your rats. And
Mice not so typical of doing this sort of behavior. It's mainly rats that are going to end up in your toilet. Mice will get in ground level through maybe your air conditioning pipes, your gas lines, water pipes, any kind of brick joints that you may have. Those little brick joints that they use, that you see on your house, that's like a gap that allows the sheathing material of the house to not get moldy and damp. They'll get in there. There's a 1-inch gap there where they can slide through those gaps if they're large enough and end up in your house. Simple as that, you know what I mean? So you want to make sure that those gaps are covered with, You could use some steel wool, some kind of mesh, coarse mesh in those areas.
So are they they're not looking for warmth, they're looking for food?
They're looking for both.
Warmth and food. Oh, okay.
Warmth, food, and it's their way of getting out of the elements where there are maybe some predators lying around. So they're safe in your house versus being outside where a nice big owl or hawk could come down and get them, right? And they know this.
Okay, so then it could be conceivable that in the wintertime especially, if somebody was to, say they have a pet, they have a dog or a cat for that matter, and they open up the door to let the pet out.
Yes.
Okay, and so you walk away and the pet wants to come back in and kicks the door, like maybe it went out to do its business or something, and you're not physically standing there. If the door gets left open, they could just basically run in the door.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
Possible. Especially if the conditions around the house enable it to do so. For example, if you have a lot of tall grass around your door, if you've got some clutter, boxes, maybe some rubble from a construction job, those are just harborage areas. And so if that's near the door and the door is open and they're hiding under there, they may just decide to come in. They know right away that it's warmer inside. They can sense that difference in the air temperature. So that will definitely bring them into the house. So you want to make sure that those areas of the doors that are clear and they're open. The mice, for example, don't like to be in open spaces. They want to be in confined spaces where they feel comfortable, where they can hide. It's their nature, and they've been doing it for millions of years.
So I guess the key area would probably be in the kitchen. They hide under, like behind the fridge, maybe in around the stove area, furnace downstairs. I guess those are, conceivably a little bit warmer.
Yes.
With what, and possibly have the food.
There's food. There's also access into those areas. So if a mouse gets into a house and it's trapped in a basement ceiling, there are pipes that are going to lead up to the kitchen, specifically where the sink is, right? So it's a double-edged sword. I mean, not only is the food there, but there's the access is there too. So that's why most people that are going to have a mouse problem are going to find droppings underneath their fridge, underneath their stove, underneath their sink. It's one of the reasons why that is the main area, specifically because of the pipes being there.
Right. So I guess the key thing to look for is going to be droppings of any sort, any strange scratching sounds that you might hear. They're nocturnal, are they not?
They're nocturnal for the most part. When a population becomes high, the older, more mature mice will start kicking the younger mice out, and so that's when you'll start seeing them in the daytime. If you see them in the daytime, you know you've got a nice population there.
Okay, that makes total sense because,
Yes.
right, because then why would they want to expose themselves to open area, especially if someone's home? I mean, they would know if there's activity going on and whether or not anyone's in the house.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
They know the homeowner's movements, and they know when the homeowner is going to be watching TV. They know when the homeowner is going to be having breakfast. They know it. They gear themselves to that rhythm, that cycle. So they're going to be more active at night when you're asleep. Mm-hmm. It's just natural. Now, if you see them during the day, they've been kicked out by the bigger, more mature mice. And says, look, this is my place to hide. You go find your own place to hide, right? So it's like, okay, then they scramble to find a place to hide.
So if you have a mice gang in your place, you're going to be able to see it with the droppings and basically what Joe is mentioning. Interesting. We're listening today to Joe Bruno, who's the owner of Snap Pest Control, and gave you a lot of good insight about mice and rats, and this time of the year is something to certainly pay attention to. We'll get into more about different types of insects that we can find in your home, in your condo, in your business. Hang tight. It's Linda Pinizzato of the Condo Expert.
Linda Pinizzato. She's not your typical realtor. She's your real estate counselor, teacher, and advisor. Whether it's a house, townhome, or condo, when you're ready, she's your negotiator. With 34 years of experience, Linda guarantees that you have the real estate knowledge you need to make the right decisions. Call Linda Pinizzato at Sutton Group Quantum Realty, 416-561-7373, or visit her at lindapinizzato.com.
Hello there and welcome back. You're listening to Linda Pinizzato of the Condo Expert at the Hayes FM radio station. And we were talking about mice and rats in your home. Well, you know what? Interesting. insects. If you had to get a weigh scale and think, okay, would I prefer to have a mouse or a rat, or would I prefer to have insects like roaches in my home? Funny enough, society almost puts a label on certain types of pests. Immediately, I mean, being in real estate, I can tell you that, if I ever go into a home, I see, and I had this on Power of Sales way back when, where in the daytime, I saw roaches crawling up the walls. Daytime. Freaked me right out. So we're going to talk to Joe Bruno of Snap Pest Control. And if you want to check out his website, actually, it's www.snapestcontrol.com. Joe.
Hi, Linda. Hi.
I know. Roaches. Oh,
Yeah.
man. I mean, just the name freaks me out.
True.
But yeah, seeing roaches in the daytime, it was a vacant house. It was a power sale. It was a bank property. And back in the 90s, I used to do a lot of powers of sales for a lot of different companies.
Right.
And now I'm with Sutton Group Quantum Realty. At the time I was with Remax. But God, it's unusual to see those in the daytime, isn't it?
Yes, they are. They tend to come out at night as well. They do like to hide in their little spots during the daytime, right? It's going to depend on the kind of roach. There's a couple of different roaches that we get in the city. The main one, of course, would be the German roach. It's brown, narrow roach that you'll find in your kitchen predominantly. When you open your kitchen cupboards, that's the one you see. That there's just so many of them. They're running around everywhere.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And they're called a German roach. I didn't even know. Really, I could look that up.
You see, it'll have 2 white stripes on its head. It's long, narrow, brownish-looking roach. It's the one that you probably saw, right?
Yeah, I saw a lot of them. That
That's
house,
the one.
that property. As a matter of fact, that property. Oh my God! Talk about freaking me out. When I got to the property, it was a 6-plex.
Okay.
And what happened was I had to go around to all the different units. So the top unit up on the 3rd floor. When I tried to push the door open, and I had someone with me because powers of sales, I don't want to go myself. I don't know what I'm expecting.
All right.
So, of course, I had the keys, and I push open the door, and I hit something, and the door wouldn't open wide enough in order for me to get through.
Right.
So what happened was Brian, who was with me from my office, he said, "Oh, it's okay, Linda, I'll do that for you."
Right.
And he pushes hard, and sure enough, it was a dresser that was blocking the door. That's what had happened. Oh my God, the minute that he did that, honestly, you saw roaches all living in this dresser. They literally made a beeline for the baseboards.
Right.
There was hundreds of them. I freaked out, totally freaked out. And then after that, we walk in, we see them on the walls. It was totally, totally infested.
Wow.
What a shocker.
Yeah, I could just imagine.
Oh my God. I still cringe when I even think about it. This is many years ago. This is back in the early 90s.
Right.
So, they multiply really quickly, don't they?
They do. And you're definitely talking about the German roach now that you mentioned the fact that they were in the dresser drawer. That would be something that the German roach would do. They would find a place like that. They do multiply quickly. Female gravid German roach will have an egg case. They call it a othuka. And inside the case, there's 40 eggs, roughly. She can lay, 6 to 7 of these egg cases throughout her lifespan, which could be about a year. So each one of those cases now has 40 eggs in it, and she can have 6 to 7 of them within 1 year. And those eggs themselves, within 45 to 50 days, are now sexually mature enough to have eggs, to lay eggs themselves and mate. So if you do the math, just having 1 or 2 gravid females, you may have 10,000 roaches at the end of the year.
Oh my God. I hope the audience is listening to this, because if you see even one roach in your home, honestly, call Joe, because the multiplication of that is insane.
If you see one roach, hopefully it's a male roach, and it's not a gravid female roach that you got.
Well, that's
somehow.
a problem, but you wouldn't know until all of a sudden you have a whole
Yes.
multitude of roaches around your house.
Yes. Now remember that they only need to mate once to have enough sperm in their system to continue the process and lay those egg cases, the 6 or 7 egg cases.
Really?
Yes,
oh,
it's not
so
like
it isn't really?
It's not a continuous thing where they need to go and find a male mate in order to create the case. Just once is enough for her entire lifespan. to create all these eggs.
So if
Hundreds
she's
of
in
eggs.
one home and she's laying all these eggs, and if she leaves and goes elsewhere, she'd lay more eggs over there.
Yes.
And she could literally infest 6 different houses.
Easy. As long as she's being transported, yes.
They say airports, you got to really, when I go away on vacation, when my husband and I go away, when we come home, honestly, we never bring our luggage right into the house, never. We always leave it, like now in the wintertime was amazing because you leave it in the garage. Whatever's in there should be killed with the cold. That was our theory. Are we wrong? Is there any truth to any of that? Because, airports, they do say that there is a lot of roaches and pests and so on around airports.
I would think you'd probably be okay in terms of the roaches getting into your stuff. It's going to be more the bed bugs that get into your stuff
Now, would
at
they
an airport. Maybe when you're sitting and you're waiting for your flight and you're sitting on a nice, comfortable chair, what's in that chair? How many people have sat in that chair? And did anybody bring a bed bug with them? Maybe the bed bug's in their luggage, which is sitting right beside the chair. And now it's crawled out and found a seam in that chair somewhere.
Oh,
so
my
you're
God.
sitting there, and if you're reading the paper for an hour or so, and the bed bug is sensing that your warm being that is giving off a good amount of carbon dioxide, it's going to naturally want to gravitate towards you. And if it gets into the cuff of your pants or in your purse, anywhere like that, you can bring it home.
And how big are these? Can you see them with the naked eye?
You can see them when they're in their later instar, which is what we'll call it about 6 months old. But when they're really small, they're very hard to see with the naked eye.
Really? So when
Yeah.
they're 6 months, are they like the size of not a fingernail?
I would say
half
that
of your baby fingernail?
You're looking at an apple seed, maybe a pear seed.
Okay.
It would be dark if there's a blood meal involved. It would be a darker color. If not, a little more translucent. But definitely about the size of a pear or apple seed.
Now, would they actually die from the cold weather? Like if you left the luggage in your garage and it was as freezing cold as we've had for the last few months, would that actually kill them? Or I guess it wouldn't if they're inside with all the clothing.
Well, this is the thing. They're going to be inside the luggage.
Yes.
So they'll find the warmest spot of the luggage to be in, especially if there's clothing still there. And then they're going to be in a garage with a door. So you know what? I wouldn't take any chances with these things.
I'm going to throw my luggage in the snow.
You definitely you want to put your luggage in a garbage bag, and you want to empty out your contents and throw them right into a dryer at a high heat cycle for at least half an hour to kill off anything that might be in your clothing. And then you want to systematically go through your luggage, especially the seams and the zippers of your luggage. You want to be looking for any kind of insect in those areas there. And if you know what, just leave your luggage in the garage. Don't even take any chances.
Yes.
Last thing you want to do is to bring one of them into your house that's gravid.
Right. So you should, so empty up your contents and take your luggage and stick it back in the garage.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
that makes leave them all open, I guess, so that they can go and
Yes, and if you want to bring your luggage
Right.
into your home, encase it in a garbage bag that's tight, because their mouth parts are sucking oriented, so they're not able to chew through the plastic. Unlike a roach, which can chew through the plastic, they have biting mouth parts. It's more like a siphon type of a mouth part on a bed bug. So they're encased in there; they can't get out.
wow. The roach, whenever I see roaches now, aside from that crazy experience that I had in that property, I remember that movie called Pacific Heights, with Michael Keaton, and he had and he wanted to get rid of a tenant or something like that, I think it
Right.
was. I can't remember. And he sits there and he had a bottle had tons of roaches and he's flicking them. Do you remember that movie?
Oh yeah, I remember it.
That
well.
was, yeah.
With a razor blade.
With a razor blade,
Yeah,
and he's
yeah,
got,
yeah.
yes, oh my God. I think that really kind of opened everyone's eyes up. I'm going back I'm dating myself here. That was a few years ago, but, and that's what made me think about, because airports, that was always kind of on the radar as being an ideal spot. Maybe another one too is that if you're getting boxes, you know how sometimes you don't want to pay for the 5 cents for the plastic bag. You don't bring your own bags. You go to the grocery store and you're bringing a cardboard box from a grocery store.
Yes. Cardboard box is like bringing a condominium for roaches home.
Yes.
For the most part. Those little tiny corrugated areas that you see around the sides of the cardboard, that's where they like to live. They like to live in there. And the cardboard itself is going to retain the moisture, so it's a nice little habitat for them. So yes, I would be very careful about bringing boxes home, if at all. Personally, I wouldn't bring any, but if you really have to, Stay away from any kind of a fruit, like a banana box or an apple box or anything like that. Maybe go through, if you have to, maybe a box that has got pharmaceutical products in it or anything else that's non-food related that hasn't been in the food section of your average grocery store is preferable.
And that's the funny part, because a lot of the people would do a beeline pretty much for the fruit boxes because they're the ones that are made really tough. They have the handles on them and they're like, oh, wow, this is like perfect. I can carry it nice and easy.
They're the ones that are coming from different parts of the world.
Exactly. And who knows what they're bringing in.
Exactly.
Oh, well, there you have it from Joe Bruno of Snap Pest Control. Just to give a quick shout out, can you want to give your email address, Joe?
Oh, sure. It's snappestcontrol@gmail.com.
And you can reach Joe at 647-991-1803. You're listening to Linda Pinizzato of the Condo Expert. Hang tight. We're going to talk more about pest control and things that you better watch out for. Doesn't matter where you live. They don't pick and choose. So hang tight. I'll be right back.
Oh, my computer crashed.
Oh, no. I've got a virus.
No way. No internet connection. Do you need help? Call IT Mayday. 647-977-7113. itmayday.com.
Hello there. You're listening to Linda Pinizzato of the Condo Expert. And, you know, so many different subjects to cover. Please do me a favor. Tell your friends to tune in to the Condo Expert. You can actually get the links right off of the coaontario.com website because, you know, a lot of the reasons why I started this show was to create awareness in the condominium world. But as things have evolved, there seems to be a heck of a lot of subjects that's not only relating to the condo world, but also relating to the housing world. In other words, whether you're semi-detached or you're a detached home, or even if you're in an apartment building for that matter, and even at work. So today we brought on the subject of pest control because it's a problem, and there's so many types of pests that you can have in your surroundings. And, you know, what's really important is if you know more about it, then you will know what to expect and how the whole thing comes about. Really fabulous information we're getting from Joe Bruno from Snap Pest Control, and he is a specialist because he is also the only one that deals with termites in the general neighborhood. You know, mind you, he can, you know, he's located in Mississauga, right, Joe?
Yes, I am in Mississauga.
Right,
yes.
But you pretty much can go anywhere. So, you know, it's boundless, is it not? If I had someone that's contacting me out in Toronto or the beaches,
yes,
there's a prime area for termites.
Yes, the beaches is problematic in terms of termites. They first came to the beaches at the Port of Toronto. So, I mean, that's where it spread first. And from there, it's pretty much gone almost everywhere in southern Ontario. I mean, you can see them now from the beaches all the way up to Guelph, Windsor, and Elora.
Well, you know,
on.
most home inspections, like when people have home inspections, they do not look for termites. You know, I mean, if you know that that area is predominant with termites, you know, as a registered realtor, Sutton Group Quantum, I would actually put it in the contract about termites. But generally speaking, on normal homes here and there, it's not a standard clause that goes in.
That's true.
Right.
That's
so,
true.
But give me a little bit of insight, or give the audience some insight on termites, because I hear a lot of conflicting comments. Like one I get is that once a house has a termites, you know, you go in and you spray it all, but the termite could take off and go next door, and next thing you know, the man next door has termites, and then he gets it fixed, and then those same termites just turn around and come right back. Is there some truth to that?
Yes, there's a little bit of truth to that. You know, there's going to be more termites depending upon where you live, of course. There's going to be hot spots. You have to ask yourself, how did the termites get there? Why did they get there? And yeah, I'm finding that a lot of the times, you know, the initial infestation of termites, there's a reason for it. So there might, and it usually revolves around water leaks, for example. So yeah, people don't realize that when their eave trough is dripping constantly in one spot of their house, and they happen to be in a neighborhood that has termites, well, the termites are going to gravitate towards that spot. So once they're there, they may find an area of the foundation of the house that has got a small little hole in it, and it allows them to get in there. And then once they're in there, by the time you notice it, it could be too late. Now you have had an active infestation going on. Because as they go in and out of those areas, they're releasing a pheromone, which is just going to attract more and more termites to that specific area. And the problem that we have is that a lot of the houses are finished now. So you've got this nice drywall in your basement in the corner of one area of your house that you don't know what's going on behind the drywall. So now you've got, thousands and thousands of termites eating away at a corner of your house. And by the time you notice it, it might actually be a little too late.
Really? So they're actually eating the wood. Is that
Yes.
they're eating the wood?
They're eating the wood.
Wow. So and as far as eating it, do they swallow all this? Do they digest it, or they chew it all up and drop it? So do you see sawdust everywhere?
No, you wouldn't really see any sawdust. If you saw sawdust, you'd be dealing with a carpenter ant as opposed to a termite, which is what we're also going to be. You may notice a little bit of that right about this time of the year. A lot of big black ants in your home, sluggish, hardly moving around too much. They will release the sawdust that you find. Termites, not really. Termites are going to be bringing that food to the nest underneath the soil of the house or to the sides of the house where they're nesting, usually about 5 to 6 feet underground.
They actually build a tunnel 5 to 6 feet underground.
Yes.
So how on earth do you get to them? I guess you have to locate where that area is, or you see certain signs to find where they're located?
Well, the main nest itself, it could be underneath the street of the neighborhood, and so there could be a finger of activity going towards your house, and maybe your neighbor's house, and the house across the street, and the house across the street from there.
So there's trails.
They'll have multiple sources to bring back the cellulose-based material back to the main nest. So basically, your objective now is to seal off your home as best you can, because there's no way you're going to get rid of the nest. The queen, you're never going to find the queen. She's just underneath the ground somewhere, and you have to make sure that your house is impenetrable to them. In these cases, it may require the removal of some drywall, the removal of wood that's infested and replaced with new wood, and creating what they call a chemical barrier around your house where the infestation has taken place.
And that's all on termites, not on carpenter ants.
It's basically, we're dealing with termites, yes.
Termites,
They need
right.
you need a chemical barrier.
You know what's really interesting is most of the home inspectors now today that go into the houses, and I've been there. Years ago, they used to take the downspout from your eaves troughs, and it would go right into the sewers.
Yes.
Okay, and but now they're actually saying that's not a good idea, because you would more likely to have some kind of backup. So they want you to cut that connection off,
Yes.
and add an addition piece on it, an elbow that would take it out to the side. But if you're taking it out to the side of the house, now you're putting more moisture into that area instead of flooding it through your sewer lines. Are you not actually creating a space there for potential problems now that you've got so much water draining in one particular spot?
I think, yes, you are. Yes. As the water is going to collect in the middle of your lawn, for example.
Right.
It will attract termites into that area and bringing them closer to the house. And I think this is a problem that's going to happen in the future.
But see, before you would have it going into your sewer systems, and it would go out to the streets. So you wouldn't have that excess coming off your,
yes, I agree totally.
Your eaves troughs. And now, so you've solved one problem, but you might be creating another problem for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that law should be changed at least to reflect the areas around high infestations of termites. So, for example, if you lived on the east side and the beaches, I don't know if that law should be applying there, personally.
You're 100% right, because I'm serious. Even like beaches, and you go up to say into the Danforth area and so on.
Yes.
Because that's what every single home inspector is recommending, and because of backup, as you know, I'm the founder of the Condo Owners Association.
Oh, I see.
So I created it in March of 2010 to deal with different issues.
Right.
And so even on this radio show, I've had, we had a big contest running with Allstate Insurance of Canada with respect to, different types of claims that you would have on your insurance policies and so on. And, so there's been a lot, home inspectors have been on the show and so on. And, as well, being an agent, this is like a constant topic that comes to the forefront. Cut off your main downspout, bring in the elbow, and gear the water away from your foundation. But you're not, because you're really putting it in the lands around you, like 4 or 5 feet out from your foundation.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
you're creating a swimming pool underneath your underneath your lawn.
Yes. And that swimming pool could be problematic in terms of termites, that I will say. Most insects do need moisture, and now you're adding a lot of moisture around your house where you wouldn't normally have had it before.
Exactly, because it'd be flowing off. So you can expect it to, because I know that the drainage on either side of your house has to, lay down low into a V shape between you and your neighbor home. And the idea behind it is for the water to flow out to the street.
In fact, this is what I'm finding in terms of termites. Usually it's going to be along one wall. The problem will be along one wall. It's not necessarily around the entire house. And it's usually the wall that's in between the two houses. You may have a walkway there with some concrete, for example, or some gravel there. That moisture is contained underneath that cement walkway. That's where the termites are going to be. They like the shelter, and they need 100% humidity. So, and if you don't want water to collect there, because that's going to be the problematic area to begin with.
Right.
So you need to make if you have to run it off, then it has to run off midway into your lawn and out onto the street.
Right, or maybe to the back of the yard, and it can get the catch basins at the back of your properties.
Remember, the termites are going to be in the backyard as well. They're going to be
For sure.
They're going to be living off the grass roots. They're going to be living off any kind of mulch, bark, any kind of stakes that you may have in your garden. These are all invitations to termites. So you want to get it as far away from your house as possible. And I know that it's going to look ugly because you'll have this long downspout eaves trough going across into your backyard that you might have to step over. But if you're in a termite-infested neighborhood, don't take any chances with
Sounds
these
like
things.
You're better off to just let it drain into the sewer system when it was intended to do originally, like 25, 30 years ago, because that was the way they built them way back when.
Yes, it's true.
Right.
Absolutely.
And now it's changed. Wow.
It's changed.
Well, if you have any signs of termites or even carpenter ants, give Joe Bruno, pest control specialist for Snap Pest Control, a call. You can reach him at 647-991-1803. We want to talk a little bit more about the carpenter ants. Joe, are they easy enough to get rid of? Because they're pretty stubborn. I understand that, because they're like, when they're hatching and so on, they're small. They're small black ones until they get large, of maybe 1 inch in size?
Remember, the ant that you see, the size of the ant that you see, it's hatched into that size. It's not going to gradually get bigger and bigger and bigger.
It hatches into a 1 inch ant.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was those little black ones that you see, and then it just gets big and it becomes the carpenter ant.
The little black ones that you see are the workers. They're the ones that are doing a lot of the damage to the wood. They're not eating the wood. They're creating galleries through the wood in order to nest through it. The big ones that you see are more likely going to be the soldier ants. And so they're designed to protect the nest. You may even have some bigger ones that are workers as well. There's different sized workers. But what you see is the actual ant. It's not going to get bigger. Like a roach, for example, has what they call a gradual metamorphosis. And so it sheds its skin and gets a little bigger. And then it sheds its skin and gets a little bigger until you see a full-grown roach. Whereas in the ant world, that's basically what you're getting. You're getting that size that's pupated into that particular form of ant. That's what you're getting. So at this time of the year, would be the time when you get those warmer months where you're going to start seeing ants in your kitchen, in your bathroom, maybe in your dining room, kind of slowly moving around and just driving you crazy. There's a nest somewhere, or they've overwintered. Those are the two scenarios that we find. They came in the fall of last year. They found a nice little cozy place to kind of just hang out and overwinter, or there's an actual nest in your house. It's called they call it a satellite nest. Not where the queen is going to be. The queen won't be in your house. She'll be in your backyard or in a tree nearby. She'll have sent out workers to take the eggs and bring them into the house to overwinter in your house. Because the actual nest outside has gotten to a stage where it's just so big now that there's just not enough room. So your house is considered like a daycare center or a nursery.
Oh, my God.
Basically,
Oh, jeez.
The queen's not there.
Oh, my God. So how big are these nests? And can you see them with your physical public eye? Like, can you actually see them in your backyard?
Well, they would be in the ground. They would be in a tree. They would be under some stones. They could be in some railway ties. The likelihood of finding the nest is very, very hard to say. I mean, you may have to dig down, 3 or 4 feet into the soil if they're in the ground, and then you would go from there. But the chances of actually getting the queen carpenter ant, I would say that's not going to happen. Remember, the queen carpenter ant is one of the oldest living insects you'll find. She can live to be up to 20 years old, the queen carpenter ant. So
where does the queen, that is really bizarre. We got to talk more about this because this is really fascinating, especially on the queen. I mean, okay, let's go a break for a moment. It's
Okay.
Linda Pinizzato of the condo expert. I'm speaking with Joe Bruno of Snap Pest Control. Hang tight. We got to learn more information about this because it's invaluable.
Linda Pinizzato. She's not your typical realtor. She's your real estate counselor, teacher, and advisor. Whether it's a house, townhome, or condo, when you're ready, she's your negotiator. With 34 years of experience, Linda guarantees that you have the real estate knowledge you need to make the right decisions. Call Linda Pinizzato at Sutton Group Quantum Realty, 416-561-7373, or visit her at lindapinizzato.com.
Hello there. You're listening to Linda Pinizzato of the Condo Expert. Oh, man. You know what? You ever sit there and you get kind of a creepy feeling? You think, oh, my God, we've been talking pest control today. Going from subjects of mice and rats and raccoons and then to cockroaches and carpenter ants, termites. But you know what, though? Honestly, it's one of those cases that you hate to really talk about it because you never want to admit that you have this problem. But if you don't talk about it, if you don't admit it, then you're not going to get rid of them. And why on earth would you want to have any type of pests in your place, your home? It doesn't matter. I know there's certain things that you could find in houses like townhouses and semis and detaches. And then, of course, there's other things that you would actually find in condominiums. Because people that live in condos, they figure, hey, I'm living in a condo. I don't have to worry about pest control. But I'm going to talk about that. But one quick thing, Joe Bruno is on in the show today with me. And, Joe, you mentioned about the queen for carpenter ants.
Right.
Now, I've got a really big question here. Like, where does she come from originally? Like, is there one hatching with nothing but queens? Or one ant ends up being hatched and it happens to be a queen? How does that all revolve?
Well, what typically happens is that, you'll have a colony of ants. You'll have a queen. And then at some stage, the colony is just so big that the queen now decides to reproduce herself. She will then lay eggs, which become male-female reproductives. And so you may see, when you start to see winged ants, some of those ants are male and some of those ants are female. They'll fly around and they'll mate. And then the males then have done their business, and now we have fertilized female reproductives, which become queens. And so they'll fly off, and then they'll find a little bit of soil somewhere or a tree somewhere, and then they'll start their own colony. And then the process continues from there. So you'll have new colonies starting. So you'll have a queen. She will start laying eggs. The eggs will become workers. The workers will go out, groom her. They'll bring back food to the nest. So now she has her nutrients, and then she'll start to create more eggs, which become more workers, and so on and so on and so on. And then in about 3 or 4 years, when her colony is big enough, they've reached, let's say, 10,000 ants, she will then lay eggs, which become alates, which are male-female reproductives. And then that swarming process will take place again.
Oh, wow.
And new queens will be reproduced, and then so on and so on.
And so on. So the queen ant will always have the wings. Or anything reproducing through the queen ant and so on will always have wings. But most carpenter ants don't have wings, though.
They
the
have
other ones
wings.
do.
The queen ant will have wings initially. Right. Once she's mated with the male alate, and she will lose her wings and become a queen. The male now will be discarded from the nest. He's done his business. He's no longer needed by all the females there.
Oh, man.
And so those guys are useless now. And they get kicked out of there.
They're like, out of here. Okay, go.
It's the same story as, same thing with wasps and bees. They're basically part of the same family. It's called Hymenoptera. Wow. So It's the same family, and they do the same thing.
Well, I wish I knew you last year. I had a wasp issue. The hornets, the
Right.
yellow hornets.
Yes.
They're dangerous.
Yeah,
They
they can be
are
quite nasty.
ridiculously dangerous. We were actually up in we have a country home up in Dunville. I had a shrub that I threw it aside in a little bucket that I had because I was
Right.
going to toss it for the garbage. I never got around to it for, the recycling when they pick
Right.
it up and stuff. And I just forgot about it. So anyway, we, a few months later, we decided we're cleaning up the garden, and I walk over to this thing and I pick it up.
Right.
And I'm walking with it. And then I got attacked by yellow hornets, and I got 18 stings. Enough to call the paramedics, the ambulance. I almost died. It was unbelievable.
Oh, my
Well,
God.
18 bee sting, or wasp stings. I passed out. I was unconscious. Yeah, totally, because the venom, I guess, with 18 of them. Oh, yeah, my husband called, the ambulance came, the OPP came. And,
Really?
they had to rush me to the hospital. They had to give me oxygen. And it was what I had done. I'll tell you what happened was they created a nest under the shrub. Can you imagine a dead shrub?
Yes.
In the, just sitting there in this bucket. They created a nest under there. When I picked it up, I broke the nest in half.
Oh.
Okay. And then they started to attack me. And I started running because I see all these wasps. And my husband comes over to try to help me. They don't go after him at all. They know it was me.
Yes.
Yes. So the first thing I thought was, okay, run in the house. So I ran into the house, and my husband came after me. No wasps came with me.
Right.
Once I read, they took off. And then I started to feel really hot, like ridiculously hot. I thought it was burning up, and I decided I was going to go and just get a cool shower to tone the body temperature down.
Right.
And literally I passed out in the shower. My husband caught me.
Oh,
And that
my.
was the next thing I know, I was in the hospital. It was really bad. So people really, they have to watch for that, because I never knew that hornets, those wasps, could live under the ground like that. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, they can. They'll nest anywhere, really. And I mean, last year was the worst year I've ever seen for wasps.
There's so many of them, wasn't there?
Last year was ridiculous when it comes to wasps. They were everywhere, especially at the end of the year. I was getting calls after calls after calls. We got wasps in our home. We have wasps here. We have wasps there. They were everywhere. I'd never seen anything like it. So I don't know if that will be the case this year. I think Mother Nature, it works in cycles. Last year was a wasps year. So maybe this year it'll be a different kind of year. It'll be a different insect that's going to, be everywhere. Maybe it's ladybugs this year. Or mice
ladybugs,
again.
that's another one too, is you see them sometimes. Like, I actually have an EpiPen now. So if anybody has, it's good to keep those. It's for, because now apparently have some kind of immunization with wasps and so on after having so many stings. So something called an EpiPen in an emergency situation. If you had that, would help you. But I know ladybugs too. I mean, they're all of a sudden, you're at your house and you see a ladybug flying around your house. Like, what's that all about?
Well, it's going to depend. Like ladybugs, it's also a cyclical thing. You'll see more ladybugs when there's more aphids in the trees. They live off the honeydew of those particular insects. So if you have a tree, a peach tree, for example, and it's got a lot of aphids in it, you start to notice that the leaves are starting to curl and become black. Well, you have a lot of aphids, you're going to have a lot of ladybugs. That's just the way it works. And it's not a bad insect. I mean, it's not going to harm
They're supposed to be
anyone.
good
It's
luck.
More of a nuisance insect. But they actually are a very beneficial insect in terms of keeping the population of aphids down. So nothing really to worry about.
No.
Absolutely not. They could get into your house and maybe congregate around window ledges. And they're probably going to get in through areas around the brick, or any kind of gaps that you have. If you have some loose caulking, they may congregate there and overwinter there, but I really wouldn't really worry about them too much. But I'm sure that with the winter that we've had, we'll have some kind of infestation of some kind of insect or mammal.
Right.
It's just a question of let's just wait and see what it is this year.
Which
the year
one is-
before it was mice. I mean, I've never seen so many mice before last year. Last year was
Really?
wasps, and then the year before that was mice. And now it seems like we're going back into mice and rats again. So, I mean, you get the rat calls all at the same time. You get them in September, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, it was just like rats, 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 rats. All
Oh,
kinds of
man,
rats.
really?
So now we're
isn't
going
that
into
something?
who knows what we're going to end up with this year.
Well, I guess they're all hidden in quarters all over the place, and because they're not going out and about. So
Yeah.
maybe it's created more of reproductive
Yeah,
reproduction
exactly.
on the rat world.
Yeah.
Just before we close, I think what's really interesting is condominiums. Like people think that when they live in a condominium, they really won't have problems of pests. But I do want to make a comment. A lot of times if board of directors or even property manager are watching budgets, they may not be using the proper chemicals to keep their garbage rooms clean, and because they're trying to save on their budget, but that is the worst place they can possibly be saving on their budget, because the garbage rooms, all the chutes, everything has to be sanitized, has to be cleaned.
Yes.
Otherwise you're going to find yourself with some kind of infestation of some pest through the building.
Yes, it's true.
And it's probably harder to get rid of them in a condo building. They can just go from unit to unit.
They can. I mean, I would say that you're looking at, in a condo setting, you're looking at definitely going to be bed bugs.
Well, that's
got to be one of
right.
the worst scenarios in a condo. It would be the bed bug problem. And you're going to have, we find that a lot of problems with regard to roaches are around the units where there is a garbage chute. So they're actually climbing those chutes and getting up in there.
And what about something called, there's a beetle of some sort that seems to be a beetle. It's very small. I actually, on behalf of the Condo Owners Association, we get emails from time to time, and one in particular was some kind of a beetle. I can't remember.
Variated carpet beetle, perhaps?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly that type of thing. So where's
Right.
that coming from? Like that was up on a higher floor as well.
Right. So, the homeowner may have brought a carpet in from a different property, or some carpeting, or they live off the box spring, the fabric that lines the bottom of the box spring. Sometimes they can start eating that thing. You may have a dog that's shedding those dog hairs. They can live off the hairs of the dog, for example.
Okay, so that's where the carpet beetle is coming. I've never even heard of that until just recently.
Yes, carpet
Yes.
beetles, and you may find moths too. Like sometimes you'll find a kind of like a goldish, yellowish looking moth called a clothes webbing moth. Same idea. It's not a beetle, it's a moth, but it also creates the same kind of damage in fabrics.
Right.
For example, you may have a nice suit in your closet. All of a sudden one day you open up the door and there goes your $1,000 suit.
Oh, wow.
So,
for sure.
things like that, right?
Yes, for sure. So, yeah, years ago they used to have those nasty mothballs. They smell awful.
Yeah, naphthalene. Yeah. It
So,
works. But
yeah.
another problem, too, that people find in condos, you may have a pantry moth, for example. You may have this little tiny moth that is in your kitchen cupboards flying around.
Really? Okay.
You could bring that from the store. You may have a bag of flour or some pasta that you haven't eaten for a while that has the egg in it. And, it sits there long enough. It creates an Indian meal moth, it's called. So you want to clean out your cupboards every so often, sanitize them, and maybe even have a pheromone trap that you can buy and just hang it in your condo unit to try to trap some of these moths mechanically.
So one big shout out is if you do live in a condominium and you have any of these, you know what, do yourself a favor and everybody around you, get a hold of your property management and make sure that they contact Joe Bruno of Snap Pest Control at 647-991-1803, or they can email snappestcontrol@gmail.com. Very important. I guess if they stop it before it goes any further and travels around me, would be a huge benefit down the road, wouldn't it, Joe?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to stop the station in its early stages. You don't want to wait too long because they can travel. They can literally go underneath the door and walk across the hallway and get into the next unit.
Exactly. And then they're going to turn around and come right back because you're just such a nice...
Now you've got two units to deal with. You know
Well,
what I mean? So
there you have it. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for coming on the show today.
Anytime.
Really appreciate
my
it.
pleasure.
It was fascinating, and we couldn't have picked a better time for their insight into pest control.
Yes, this is the time of the year when things start to happen. Animals start to move. And now you have to really have your guard out for pests. And we've all got some kind of pest.
Exactly. Well, you've heard it here on the Condo Expert. You've been listening to Linda Pinizzato. Have a wonderful day. please be on the lookout for a pest that could be living in your home. Every week we have the shows, Wednesday and Friday nights at 7 p.m. And you can also listen to Linda Pinizzato /Buzzsprout.com and also iTunes. Just type in Linda Pinizzato or Condo Expert. One thing I want to mention is, although the name is Condo Expert, I try to touch a lot of different subjects because, one thing revolves to the next. I mean, you can talk about condos, you can talk about single-family homes, you can talk about the market, the economy. You can talk about, it was about bugs and pest control. We've talked about mortgage financing, lawyers, the Condo Act review, what's going on with our city hall, municipalities, provincial government. Today, the episode's been about modular homes. We touched on mobile homes. There isn't a subject that I can't touch on. And if you are interested in listening to something that has tweaked your mind and you just can't find the real information, please email linda@lindapinizzato.com, because this is where you're going to get the information. And it's fun, it's exciting, and at any given time, just type in condoexpert.com and it will give you the total rundown of all the shows that have been out there. There's over 200 shows. Now's the time to learn more. As a realtor for the last 35 years, I've been so fortunate to learn so many different things about everything that we have talked about, and I'm here to help you. So thank you so much for tuning in. You're listening to Linda Pinizzato at the Condo Expert. Hope to hear from you soon, and have a wonderful, fabulous day.